Hey guys, so I'm sorry that my dad interrupted the last one, so I'll just restart from chapter 2. Okay. Fortunately, Abeline's mother walked past the dining room and witnessed Edward's suffering. "Drop it," she shouted to Rosie, and Rosie, surprised into obedience, did as he was told. Edward's silk suit was stained with drool, and his head ached for several days afterward, but it was his ego that had suffered the most damage. Abeline's mother had referred to him as "it," and she was more outraged at the dog urine on the tablecloth than she was about the indignities that Edward had suffered at the jaws of Rosie. And then there was the time that a maid, new to the Tulane household and eager to impress her employers with her diligence, came upon Edward sitting on his chair in the dining room. "What's this bunny doing here?" she said out loud. Edward did not care at all for the word bunny. He found it derogatory in the extreme. And here's the picture. The maid bent over him and looked into "Humph," she said. She stood back up. She put her hands on her hips. "I reckon you're just like every other thing in this house. Something needed to be cleaned and dusted." And so the maid vacuumed Edward Tulane. She shoved each of his long ears up in her hose. She pawed at his clothes and beat his tail. She dusted his face with brutality and efficiency. And in her zeal to clean him, she vacuumed Edward's gold pocket watch right off his lap. The watch went into the maw of the vacuum cleaner with a distressing clank that the maid did not even seem to hear. When she was done, she put the dining room chair back at the table, and uncertain about exactly where Edward belonged, she finally decided to shove him in among the dolls on a shelf in Abeline's bedroom. "That's right," said the maid. "There you go." She left Edward on the shelf at a most awkward and inhuman angle. His nose was actually touching his knees, and he waited there, with the dolls twittering and giggling at him like a flock of demented and unfriendly birds, until Abeline came home from school and found him missing and ran from room to room calling his name. "Edward!" she shouted. "Edward!" There was no way, of course, for him to let her know where he was. No way for him to answer her. He could only sit and wait. When Abeline found him, she held him close, so close that Edward could feel his heart beating, leaping almost out of her chest in its agitation. "Edward," she said. "Oh, Edward, I love you. I never want you to be away from me." The rabbit, too, was experiencing a great emotion, but it was not love. It was annoyance that he had been so mightily inconvenienced, that he had been handled by the maid as cavalierly as an inanimate object, a serving bowl or a teapot. The only satisfaction to be had from the whole affair was that the new maid was dismissed immediately. Edward's pocket watch was located later deep within the bowels of the vacuum cleaner, dented but still in working condition. It was returned to him by Abeline's father, who presented it with a mocking bow. "Sir Edward," he said, "your timepiece, I believe." The road fair and the vacuum cleaner incident, those were the great dramas of Edward's life until the night of Abeline's 11th birthday, when, at the dinner table, as the cake was being served, the ship was mentioned. Chapter 3. Let's see how long it is. Is this chapter 4? Chapter 3 is a short chapter, so we'll read it. "She is called the Queen Mary," said Abeline's father, "and you and your mamma and I shall share on..." "She is called the Queen Mary," said Abeline's father, and you and your mamma and I shall sail on her all the way to London." "What about Pellegrina?" "I will not go," said Pellegrina. "I will stay." Edward, of course, was not listening. He found the talk around the dinner table excruciatingly dull. In fact, he made a point of not listening if he could help it. But then Abeline did something unusual to pay attention. As the talk about the ship continued, Abeline reached for Edward and took him from his chair and stood him in her lap. "And what about Edward?" she said, her voice high and uncertain. Said her mother. Will Edward be sailing on the Queen Mary with us?" Well, of course, if you wish, although you're getting a little old for such things as China rabbits. Nonsense, said Abeline's father, jovially. Who would protect him if Edward was not there? From the vantage point of Abeline's lap, Edward could see the whole table spread out before him in a way that he never could when he was seated in his own. On the glittering array of silverware and glasses and plates, he saw the amused and condescending looks of Abeline's parent, and then his eyes met Pellegrina's. She was looking at him in the way a hawk hanging lazily in the air might study a mouse on the ground. Perhaps the rabbit fur on Edward's ear and tail and the whiskers on his nose had some dim memory of being hunted, for a shiver went through him. Yes, said Pellegrina, without taking her eyes off Edward. Who would watch over Abeline if the rabbit were not there? That night, when Abeline asked, as she did every night, if there would be a story, Pellegrina said, "Tonight, lady, there will be a story." Abeline sat up in bed. "I think that Edward needs to sit here with me," she said, so that Pellegrina. "Yes, I think that the rabbit must hear the story." Abeline picked Edward up, sat him next to her, and arranged the covers around him. Then she said to Pellegrina, "We are ready now." So, Pellegrina coughed. So, said Pellegrina, she coughed. And so, the story begins with the princess. A beautiful princess? Abeline asked. A very beautiful princess. How beautiful, Pellegrina? It is all in the story. Chapter 4. We're going to stop there for now because I have to leave soon. And, bye guys.